welcome everybody to DisruptEDtv. My name is Alcini.
John Wayne, no, actually.
Yeah, Joe Hassanetti. Our job on DisruptEDtv is to introduce you, our audience, to disruptive ideas, creative ideas that can improve your outcome and improve your school. And our guest today is Karen Giuffre, who is the founding director of Voyagers School.
Voyagers Community School.
Voyagers Community School. And we'll talk about Voyager Community School a little later on, but I wanted to start with your disruptive idea, which is that it's possible for a teacher to meet a student where they are and craft a learning experience. I don't know if that's where the idea of Voyager comes from, but you're kind of helping, the way I interpret it, you're helping a student find their own way through the learning process.
Sure.
Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Good.
Our concept is that children learn in various ways, and that they deserve to have a space where they can do that. They can be powerful and resourceful and competent and confident and be academically challenged and grow intellectually, socially, and emotionally based on a starting point, where they are,
Right.
and where they want to go.
Yeah. Okay, great. And any teacher can do this.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the important thing, is you're not born with this skill. It's a skill you can develop.
Yes.
And you've seen this happen. You've seen teachers develop this skill.
Absolutely. It's not something that you necessarily come to naturally, because for the most part, when we're meeting teachers, they all come from more traditional academic experiences.
Right.
And so we tend as human beings to fall back on what we know. And so this has to be a very intentional and purposeful approach to education.
Okay.
But there are many teachers who have done it, will do it, and will continue to challenge themselves to meet children in this way.
We have educators out there at every grade level. I know Voyager Community School is K through 12.
Yep. In fact, preschool,
Preschool,
toddler, and infant.
Which
Yes.
is important. So it's
Yeah.
every level of education,
That's right.
and this same approach works at every level.
Works at every level.
And it's something a teacher can learn even if they've been teaching for 30 years.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
yeah.
what are the steps involved in a teacher becoming this kind of a aware teacher?
I believe the first thing is to just understand children. We call our teachers teacher researchers. We do this for a reason, because they're constantly researching. You're constantly trying to understand the person in front of you, in this case, the child, and the children as a collective group. And you're thinking about what they're interested in, how they see the world, how they approach learning, what excites them, and even what causes them to withdraw.
Right.
Or causes them to take pause. What subjects do they talk about? How do they approach materials? Do they prefer to hear something? Do they prefer to read something? There's a various and sundry ways that you have to look at children. But if a teacher truly comes to the profession of teaching with that passion, then there's no doubt that they can do this.
From that place.
That's
What you're really doing is encouraging, you're encouraging learners to find their own path to discovering whatever it is they're going to discover by attending this class.
Yes, but the job as an educator is to help the child do that, right? So help the child to become aware of him or her own preferences and styles of learning and subject matter they're interested in, and then introduce sort of the provocations, the questions, the material, the environment that challenges them to take the next step. Move a little bit further into your learning.
You give a teacher the ability to customize learning.
Absolutely,
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
And
it is.
you get a beautiful outcome. Now, from the point of view of a teacher out there, I've been teaching for 30 years.
Sure.
I've been doing this my way for forever. Why would I want to do it?
If you truly want to put individuals out into the world who are engaged citizens, learners, teachers, workers, you have to see the potential in children, and you have to want this for our society.
Right.
And it's really about creating what we want for our society, what we want for our future.
Now, that's really powerful. What does the teacher get from that? I mean, how does it improve the teaching experience?
It's such satisfaction. It's such satisfaction and it's such excitement and there's such energy in it because every day is a different day. Every day you're going in with almost a new canvas or a canvas in process. And you don't quite know, when you're really working with people, there's the unknown, there's the spontaneity, there's those moments, right? That you couldn't anticipate, you wouldn't anticipate, and probably wouldn't happen if you were teaching the same way all the time.
Okay.
By approaching it with this open mind, what we say, anything is possible. Anything is possible. That changes the entire course of your teaching in your class.
That changes everything. So if I'm a teacher, then I'm thinking the first shift that I have to make is the shift away from trying to manage the learning experience and into trying to inspire learning, even though that might be an individual experience for each student.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
So not trying to manage the goal or the grades, let's say, or
Right.
manage the outcomes
Right.
from a metrics point of view, but to try to create an experience that's separate for each. How much more time am I going to be? How much busier am I going to be as a teacher if I do that?
It is busy. It's not for the faint of heart.
Right.
You have to really be a dedicated educator, and we'll totally own that. But any teacher who is invested in the profession is working hard now.
Right.
They're working hard
Really,
now.
it's a hard job.
It's a hard
already, and
job. It's a hard job. But instead of having to focus on how do I manage the room, it's how do I energize the room? How do I excite the students? How do I contribute in an exciting and energized, thoughtful way? That will come naturally in time if you truly enjoy the company of children and you enjoy seeing them as people.
Oh, that's key.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah.
And we made, Joe and I made the joke. Joe laughs along with it when I do that. Thank you, Joe, I appreciate that. We made the joke that we went to school at Little House on the Prairie,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And with Thomas Jefferson.
So,
But we're really not talking about, well, I'll tell you what, I want to pick that up. We're
Right.
getting ready for a break.
Break.
What we're really doing is rediscovering a method of teaching. It's,
yes,
and I
absolutely.
want to talk about that. That's the history of teaching, and when we come back, we'll talk more about that.
Yes,
We'll
we
be
will.
right back after this break on DisruptEDtv. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's great. Welcome back to DisruptEDtv. My name is Al Cini.
I'm still Joe Osamendi.
That never changes, and I'm so happy
Well,
about
it could be. I could say John Wayne.
No, let's go with Joe Assamenti.
Yeah,
That's
I'll
great.
do that. That's
But more important than either of us is our guest today, and
Absolutely.
that's Karen
Thank
Giuffre,
you.
who is the founding
Director?
director of, we're
Voyagers
going to talk about the
Community
Voyager
School.
Community School
Yeah.
in a minute, but just before the break, we were talking about the style of teaching that you're advocating. And that little endearing story about how we went to school with Thomas Jefferson
You're right.
was to make the point that we're really remembering a style of education that used to be prevalent.
Absolutely.
And maybe in our world of compartmentalization, we've forgotten some of that.
That's right. That's right. We talk at school about teaching traditional education in non-traditional ways, but in truth,
Right.
the way we are teaching is quite traditional. So if you go back to early education, you'll find that you'll find terms like progressive education and hands-on and experiential, and you'll look for theorists and practitioners like John Dewey and Sylvia Ashton Warner and others who have the teachers and the founder of Reggio Emilia schools in Italy. This is not something new. It's something we forgot.
It's something we forgot.
Something we forgot. So for us to go back and rediscover education, in a sense, and then to put it into practice was the key, right? So when I was doing the work to establish this school, the first thing I did was steep myself in the research of history and philosophy and approach to kind of compile an understanding of what education was. And in that process, one of the first people I came across was Caroline Pratt. So some people will know the City and Country School in Manhattan still exists today. Caroline Pratt started that school back in the late 1800s. And at that time, she felt that education existed in the world around you. And so she took her students out to the harbors and out to the factories, and there she saw their excitement. She saw them speak to the workers, develop an understanding of the way things happen in the world, and then take it back to the classroom and learn from the experience.
That's important. So it's not necessarily more work for the teacher, it's just a different approach to the work.
That's correct.
I mean,
That's
you've
correct.
got so many hours with your students in a given day. We're not saying you spend more hours doing it, we're saying you use those hours differently.
Absolutely, yes.
And I think that's so key.
You encourage it. What I think is so great about the style is you encourage innovation. And
Yes.
that's so important for a teacher to be able to want to innovate and want to get the students motivated. And that's
Yes.
a great story about
Yes.
Evan Hansen.
And you model that. So as a teacher, you model it. If you model taking risks, if you model innovation, children will see that that's an aspect of life that's important, they're curious about it, and they will engage in that. So a lot of being this type of teacher is to be a good model.
Sure.
And so to do that, we challenge our teachers all the time to do things that are somewhat uncomfortable, so that they remember what that feels like, and they can take that memory into the classroom as they're inspiring children to take risks and do things that might feel somewhat uncomfortable. So a classic example is, we just had staff development. I said to my teachers, I want you to make a movie about what it means to be a progressive teacher and why that's exciting. The outcome was not what mattered. The process mattered. And we say that all the time in learning. It's the process that matters much more. Right? So in this case, it was helping the teachers understand, hey, wait a minute. Okay, when I ask my children to do X, Y, Z, this is the way they're going to feel.
Right.
And here are some things that I can bring back to the classroom in terms of solutions or approaches or ways to look at that challenge. And so that professional development is key to this as well. It's keeping those teachers fresh, with fresh eyes and experiences to call back to.
That's key. Now, you started Voyager Community School in 2004, I think
Correct.
you said, before
Yes.
the program. We
Yes.
talked about this. Is this what you had in mind? Is this what you were planning?
This is absolutely what I had in mind.
Okay.
It is
Tell us a little
absolutely
bit
what I
about
had in
that. Where does
mind.
that come from?
So I have to give credit where credit is due. So I have my own children, of course, and my two younger children went to school at a Child's Place in Lincroft, New Jersey. That school very much inspired by the same types of people that I'm talking about. And so I always say, for the 4 years that they were there, and it was preschool through first grade, I get as much of an education as they did. And I came to understand that yes, in fact, there is another way to approach teaching children and actually to be in the company of children. So then the thought was, then I couldn't find it beyond first grade. Where is it? So I said, you know what? I'm going to create it. I'm going to create it. It's a little bit of a harebrained idea. But I was so passionate and energized by this, and by not just my own children, but the other children I saw in this school, and the way they interacted with people outside of school. And I said, this is tremendous value, tremendous value. This is what children deserve, and a way to meet children across, I'm going to use the word spectrum, which is often referred to in autism, but I mean it in terms of children as having a variety and a spectrum of abilities, capabilities, ways of seeing the world, and ways of engaging with others.
That's great.
And so how do you meet all those children? How do you meet them all, rather than to compartmentalize and categorize?
Everybody mainstreamed, everybody's in the same program.
That's right.
Everybody, they might move along at their own pace,
Yes.
but they're on the same track.
Yes,
It's not
and they
like-
may get services within the school. What we say to children is, you each have a different you each have a different profile. You each have a different need, a set of needs, and we're going to understand that, and we're going to meet that need. So we may have a paraprofessional in a classroom to support a child. That's certainly something that we may have a speech therapist that comes in. You know, we may have these things, but these are what we define as typically developing children with a set of needs. And we're just trying to figure out how to
Just meet those needs.
meet those needs and
wherever they
create a
surface.
community where everyone is included.
Well, that's
We
great.
call it a community school. We used to call it Voyagers School. We added the word community because it's important. It's
It
important
is
to
important.
understand
You're
and be a part of
community,
something
and that's
bigger,
all there is to it.
bigger than yourself.
So Voyager Community School, which you started, is a private school.
Correct.
Okay.
Private, nonprofit.
But just because you teach the way you do doesn't mean you don't get a diploma that's recognized. It doesn't mean you don't get, I mean,
Right.
the kids get all the certifications that they need.
The children get all of the curriculum areas are met, all the standards are met. Our students, kindergarten through 8th grade, do not get grades, but they get extensive narrative reports that looks at everything that they're doing, not just the academic, but the social and the emotional engagements, community responsibility,
Great.
all of those things. Starting in 9th grade, our children do receive grades, but they also receive a narrative report. And the other unique piece is that our children help us, our high school children help us develop our rubrics.
Wow.
They are a part of the grading system. They are welcome to debate their grades, but ultimately they get grades, they get a GPA, they get an official transcript, and they get into colleges, 4-year colleges all across the country, 100% acceptance with academic scholarships.
That's terrific. Well, we have to take a break. When we come back, though, we want to talk about outcomes because you can tell us maybe a couple of stories about how this style of teaching has made a difference in Voyager Community School.
Terrific.
We'll be right back with Karen Giuffre, and you'll be right back in a minute after this break at DisruptEDtv.
Hang in there.
Thank you. Welcome back to DisruptEDtv. My name is Al Sini,
I'm Joe Osamendi.
and we're really fortunate to have with us today
Absolutely.
Karen Giuffre, who is the founding director. I got that
Yes,
right now,
you
of Voyager Community School.
Yes.
And just before the break, we were talking about how you're, I don't want to say innovative, because in a way we're kind of remembering the way schools used to work. How your engaged style of education gets good outcomes at the school.
Sure.
Could you talk a little bit more about that? I know they get diplomas and they get certifications and all that, but they go on to college. And
So
how
they do. They go on to college and they major in all of the sort of things you'd think about, but probably with a little bit of maybe they're. I'm going to say that maybe they're more engaged in college in liberal arts or in skill sets. So, for instance, a student studying film. I have a student studying women's studies and peace studies. I have a student studying communications and marketing, and various and sundry writers and so on and so forth. The other thing is I have students who do not opt to go to college occasionally, although they're all accepted to colleges and they're all required to apply to colleges. And the theory behind that is that they need to know they can.
Right.
So that's very important. But I have a student who studied to be an electrician. I have another student who went to a college that offered a combination of academics and welding. We have a student who studied chiropractic medicine for horses. So there's various and sundry things
And with
that
no
happen.
judgment at all on what life choices they make after the school.
No,
So
as long
can
as they
decide-
make one and
as
they're
long as they make
doing
a
something
choice,
productive, sure.
You see, to me, the power, Joe, listening to Karen talk about this, is we're getting kids to shift from being compliant students to being engaged students.
Oh, yes.
That means that there's a little bit of surprise in there, because the student, it's hard to predict where a student will take this.
That's right.
But you know they're going to take it someplace that's meaningful to them.
That's right. That's right. And they're going to know if something isn't working. They're going to have the confidence to think about and make change.
Right.
So they become more responsible individuals. What we find with our students is they walk out into the world with more confidence, with a sense of responsibility, with the ability to communicate well, articulate their ideas, to write well, and to engage with others, regardless of age, in order to help, but also to get the help that they need.
To become critical thinkers too.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, that's
Critical
critical
is-
thinkers, creative,
Absolutely.
creative thinkers.
Yes,
These are
yes.
all very important life skills. And speaking as representatives of the business community, these are the kinds of employees that we're looking for.
That's right.
Our educational system
right.
needs to produce these people.
That's right. We need these people in our society, both in any arena. So if you're even talking about good citizens,
Right.
you know, being able to contribute, to vote, to to be involved,
Just
to
to
be
function, to be
thoughtful
able
and
to- right.
thoughtful and connected to the world around them,
You know,
not just nationally but globally as
Right.
well. I mean, we look
I
very
said
carefully
function,
at
but I
this.
don't think I mean that. I think I was wrong. I think I don't think I went deeply enough because we don't just want people to function. We want them to contribute.
That's right.
And
That's
so
right.
their gift is what they do that nobody maybe expected them to do, but
That's right.
prepared them to do
Yes.
in a kind of a remarkable way. And
Yeah.
a lot of that is preparing them to deal emotionally with life.
Absolutely.
Is that a big part of it?
Absolutely. And in this day and age, the emotional person
Right.
we've been challenged. Our emotions have been challenged time and time again. And so being able to understand your own reactions and emotions and feelings, to own those, to in a sense manage those, and to help others, to be empathetic, to be compassionate, all of those sorts of things are also a big part of what we're teaching. So we teach, for instance, we have a safe place agreement and we have a student judiciary, and we teach children to help each other. Have you tried to work it out, we'll say, in a difference? And then how can we help you?
That requires them to build interpersonal skills with each other, and then you can coach them through that process to make them better
Yes.
people.
Yes. Yeah.
And maybe that's where the whole process starts, because I was thinking, if you were going to talk to a teacher out there and tell them where this starts, maybe that whole idea of having students work together collaboratively, find
Yes.
ways, whatever subject you're teaching,
Yes.
find ways to get the students in your class to work with each other.
That's right.
Maybe that's a
That's
first step.
Well, yes, and to do that, where it absolutely starts is to be a listener. We spend, as teachers, far more time talking than we should be spending talking. The learning is in the listening. And so if we listen to children, and then we move in a direction because of what we've heard.
What you heard, and that's it. Yeah.
That in and of itself says to a child, what you're doing is important to me. What you're thinking, what you're trying, what you're struggling with, that is all important to me. And the minute you say that, then the child gives back, oh,
Right.
that person cares.
I've
We're
had the
gonna
privilege
work
of
at that
actually
together.
visiting your school. And there's an energy in your school. The minute you walk in, there's an energy. It's incredible.
That's great.
It's really, you can tell people are engaged and people are smiling and interacting with each
Correct.
other.
That's-
And that's a great environment.
It's a very lively environment.
And
It's
that all
Very
comes from this
lively
style of
environment.
teaching,
Right.
this teacher's willingness to allow unpredictable things to happen in
Yes.
the classroom
Yes.
and to embrace that.
Yes, and to say we're in it together.
Right.
That's-
You might be 5 and I might be 50, but we're in it together.
Right.
And what you have to say matters to me.
Sure.
Okay, I want to spend just a minute on that whole concept of listening.
Yes.
Listening to pretend that you're listening,
No.
you have to go a little deeper than
Yes.
that, right? So
Listening to collect data. Remember I said they're teacher
Right.
researchers. Listening to collect data, to look at it from different, we talk oftentimes about schema, so look at it from different schema, look at it from your life experience, bring it to your team and listen to another teacher's perspective based on his or her life experience.
Right.
And let's really sort of massage this topic, in a sense, from the perspective of the children and what I heard and what I saw, and then go back in the room, right? Not necessarily, it's not as if I'm going to step out, do this, and run back in.
Sure.
No, this is over time. This is truly over time. It's,
Right.
you know,
So that active listening skill is, if a teacher were to join Voyager Community School, is that one of the first things you work with them on?
absolutely.
Okay, how do you do that?
Absolutely. So it's a lot of challenging. So sometimes it's as simple as this: if you talk 10 minutes, the children should have spoken 30. Did that happen in your room, or did it happen the other way around?
Right.
How can you shift that? We often like the morning meeting. Teachers love morning meeting. But sometimes morning meeting isn't effective because morning meeting means the teacher's doing all the speaking and the
Right.
children are doing all the listening.
Oh, good
So
point.
maybe there's another way to do that. So these are the things that we start with. Oftentimes we'll hire somebody and we won't ask that person to teach, we'll ask that person to watch,
Right.
Wow, that is so
Watch.
powerful. That's
Excellent way
great.
to start.
right? Be a listener from day one.
Well, that's
Tell me what you saw, tell me what you heard, tell me what you think.
That's great. Well, we're coming up on that part of our program where you get to talk into the camera.
Yeah.
Tell everybody why they ought to call you and how they can reach you and how you can help them.
Okay.
Thank you, Karen.
Okay.
Go ahead and do it.
So I'd be happy to receive phone calls and emails. We are Voyagers Community School. We're located at 215 Broad Street in Eatontown, New Jersey. Our phone number is 732-842-1660. Website is www.voyagerscommunityschool.org. And I can be reached at director@voyagerscommunityschool.org.
Karen Giuffre, it was terrific having you on the program today, and I think what you had to say reflects well on the school. People should know more about Voyager Community School, but I think it also is great advice for just about any teacher out there who maybe wants to notch it up a little bit, find new ways to reach students. I think that was great advice.
Hopefully we drop the pebble and the ripple spreads.
That was
We're there
that is
to
such a
help.
great analogy, and that's it. If you could
Yeah.
just get the word out, 2 or 3 teachers at a time, I think the whole world of education gets better, which
Yes.
is
Pebble
terrific.
become a rock and all of a sudden, boom.
There you go.
Yeah,
There
that's
you
exactly
go.
what
There you
happened.
go.
Big splash.
Pleasure's
Thank-
mine. Pleasure's mine. Thank
Well,
you.
thank you, Karen.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
very
being on
much.
the
Thank you so much for
program,
being
Thank you
here.
very much.
And thank all of you for joining us today on DisruptEDtv. This guy is Joe Assamendi.
And that guy's Al Sid.
Yeah, let's see if we change it up a little bit.
Absolutely.
Thank you again, Karen, for being our
Thank you,
guest.
Karen.
Thanks
Have
so
a great
much.
day, guys.
Sure.
We'll see you again. Thank you.